Good evening and welcome to the February 21st meeting of the governing body. I will call this meeting to order. If you will give your attention to Councilman Emerson for the invocation, stand as you are able, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. For tonight's invocation, I'd like to introduce a newcomer to the city of Topeka, Barry Feeker. As you guys know, the longtime director of Topeka Rescue Mission, and he's continues to work in that area with compassion strategies, and I really appreciate everything you've done for Topeka.
Thank you, Councilman. It's good to be in this city, not for the first time. Let's pray. Father, as we look around this nation and around this world, we can be very thankful that we live in a city called Topeka. We can be thankful because of the relationships, because of the opportunities, and because of just the blessing that you have given this city over many years. Tonight we will recognize some of those blessings with some acknowledgments of people who have contributed heavily in this community for many years, and we're thankful for them. We're thankful for those that are here tonight, those who are in leadership, those who have said yes to taking the mantle to represent their districts, to represent the people. And we thank you for the policies that they lay before us, the opportunities that we have to come together. And we thank you for the paving the way with wisdom and godly understanding for a community that's here for all. So tonight we ask for the blessing that we always ask for, that you would give us divine wisdom, give our leaders unity and harmony, and help us, Lord, to be everything that you have created us to be. And now we thank you in Christ's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend. Okay, we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, and that's the roll call.
Mayor Padilla.
Here.
Council members Hiller.
Here.
Valdivia Acla.
Here.
Ortiz.
Here.
Emerson.
Here.
Kale.
Here.
Nager.
Here.
Dobler.
Here.
Duncan.
Here.
And Hofer.
Here.
We have 10 present.
Okay, roll call being completed. We'll move on to the second item on our agenda, if the clerk will read.
2 is a recognition of James Friel 100th birthday.
This is the fun part of my job. I know you and I had similar fun things that we did down at the police department. This is something I never thought I'd have the opportunity to do, to recognize you in this way, in a way that you deserve.
Well, thank you. And I will say that you never refused an assignment and you never failed to do it well. And it was a pleasure working with you. And I still think you're doing a very credible job in the positions that you're holding.
Thank you, Chief. It means a lot.
I'm serious.
It means a lot. Thank you very much. I have a recognition I'd like to read. And if you ever more comfortable, you may be seated.
I understand.
Okay? Where is it? Okay. Not surprised that you decided to stand at all. This is a certificate of recognition for James R. Jim Friel. It is my pleasure to honor retired City of Topeka Police Chief Jim Friel as he celebrates his 100th birthday on February 27th, 2023. Jim began his career with the Topeka Police Department on February 1st, 1949. I was born that year. He began as a traffic officer in the motorcycle division. He rose through the ranks, serving as a detective, training officer, vice and narcotics officer, and finally as chief. Jim retired from his position on February 1st, 1975. He then went to work for the Department of Labor in October of 1975 and retired from there in 1992. Jim also is a World War II Marine Corps veteran and a Purple Heart recipient. Thank you for your service, sir. As family and friends gather to celebrate this special occasion, you have my best wishes on your centenarian birthday. On behalf of the residents of Topeka, may your 100th birthday be filled with memories, joy, and laughter. In witness hereof, I do hereby affix my official signature and the official seal of the city of Topeka, Kansas, on this 21st day of February, 2023. Michael A. Padilla, Mayor. You're welcome. Chief?
Chief Friel, we also have at the police department, we also have recognition award for you too. You started your career in 1949. I was born that year too. But I had a little speech prepared to say, but as I was standing listening to you and the mayor talk here in this public setting, I was struck by the words that you two said, and I think it says it better than anything else. He said, "Thank you for your service," and you immediately replied, "My pleasure."
It was, and always will be a most pleasant memory of all the things that I've been able to serve, except possibly the Marine Corps.
I'm Navy. There you are. But I really believe that quick answer that you gave right there kind of sums up the life of service that we like to talk about in our profession. The noblest of professions, it's all about protecting and serving. And you stand as an example to us all, not just because also that you're going to be 100 years old, which is damn impressive, I think. Let's give him a round of applause for that. But the fact that you survived your law enforcement career and have gone on to a second career with the Department of Labor is truly impressive. We had a great time at the police department when we heard this was coming up. I want to thank your family too for letting us know that this was coming up and giving us the opportunity to do this well-deserved recognition. But we went through the archives. We found some old pictures, and that's my current chief coin, and we want to present you with a plaque in recognition of all of that.
It's a beautiful plaque. That was my first recruit class. I was training on.
And what year would that probably have been? If you know.
No, I don't.
It would have been after 1949, but before, right? I got you. Well, Chief, we appreciate your service then, and we appreciate your example now, and thank you very much for being here tonight. Well, I'm glad we made it feel like that for you, sir.
One of my friends, it doesn't make any difference what police department or that you're on. You meet another officer, it's a friend. It's a brother like no one.
I couldn't have said it better myself, sir. Thank you very much.
Like I said, that's a good part of being a member of the governing body, being able to recognize that kind of service and dedication to this community. We will move on now to the appointments on the agenda.
A is a board appointment recommending the appointment of J. Van Blarcom to the Topeka Sustainability Advisory Board for a term ending February 21, 2025. B is an advisory council appointment of Carrie Hageman to the City of Topeka Americans with Disability Act ADA Advisory Council for a term ending February 21, 2025.
Okay, you have heard the appointments read. The chair will entertain a motion.
Move to approve?
Thank you. Motion to approve by Councilwoman Nager, and I looked to my left first, sorry. Seconded by Councilman Emerson. If you'll call the roll, please.
Councilmember Emerson,
Yes.
Kale,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
Hofer. Yes. Hiller. Yes. Valdivia Akala
Yes.
and Ortiz.
Yes.
We have 9 yes, motion carries.
Okay, motion's carried, and I believe, let's see, both people, Carrie Hageman and Jay Van Blaricum, if I pronounce that correctly. If you'll stand so we can recognize you, sir, and ma'am, to thank you for your willingness to step forward and serve the community. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on now to agenda item number 4, if the clerk will read.
For his presentation on the City of Topeka 2022 fourth quarter report.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we're joined by Chief Financial Officer Freddie Maugin and Deputy Director Matthews. We have a short presentation on quarter 4 financial reports for 2022.
Thank you. Ready?
Thank you, City Manager, Mr. Mayor, council members. In front of you, you should have you 2022 fourth quarter financial report packet. There's a few items that I would like to highlight for you. During this presentation, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Slide. All right. So these are the big items that I would like to discuss with you this evening. One, we have the citywide overview fund. Then I would like to narrow it down to the largest fund within the citywide budget, which is the general fund. I would like to discuss with you some cost-saving transfers. And finally, I would like to share with you some good news and some potential recommendations. Slide. So in this slide, what we have is we have expenses and revenues for the 2022 budget as well as the 2022 actuals. So there's a few things that I would like to keep in mind. One is that the revenues are likely to increase. This has to do with the sales tax collections for December 2022 that has not yet been received for the city of Topeka. So let's talk about the expenses first. So there's a few things that are affecting the expenses overall. One are federal fund expenses like ARPA. These were not and are not in the budget, and this has to do with the fact that these type of funds do not operate on a yearly calendar budget. So these affect our revenues, but it also affect our expenses. Another things that are affecting the expenses are that debt, or in this case, bonds. Let me find my notes here. Apologize for that. Another thing that is affecting is the refinancing of these bonds. So on one hand, this shows as an outflux of funds, of cash from the budget, but at the same time, this has substantially saved the city of Topeka a significant amount of money. Just from the reducing the financing debt and the service fees for that, the city of Topeka has saved approximately $500,000 in the next 15 years. So this is quite substantial. Now let's talk about the revenue side. In the revenue side, the city of Topeka, once again, has not yet received the December 2022 sales tax distribution. This 2-month lag, it's a pretty standard procedure where it takes about 2 months for the retailers to distribute those funds
to the Department of Revenue, and 2 months later, the city of Topeka and other municipalities receive those distributions. So this is quite normal. But once again, we do expect to see a very robust December 2022 sales tax collection in the tune of between $3 to $4 million just for that month. So that was a lot of activities in December. Another thing affecting the revenues are additional funds that we receive from revenues from franchise fees. Next slide. So now let's bring it down to the largest fund within the citywide budget, which is the general fund. This represents 1/3 of the entire budget of the city. So overall expenses were down by $2 million. At the same time, the city revenues significantly increased. So at this point, we estimated that roughly $3 million will be received to the general fund account from the December 2022 sales tax collection. So these are very strong, robust numbers right now. Slide, please. So these leave us with 5 items that will reduce the overall expenses for the city. These are saving funds mechanism. So the first one is a $3 million revolving design fee fund. So rather than going through the process of taking temporary notes to finance for design fees for capital improvement projects, this new account will allow the project managers to withdraw cash and pay for those fees in cash. So instead of taking temporary notes, which have a significant cost. So these will be avoid the costs associated with taking these temporary notes. So that's the first one. The second one is to pay cash for the ERP upgrade instead of taking bonds to pay for that. Once again, that will be a quite significant savings for the city. The final 3 are the KTA interchange study, the bikeways master plan, and the median replacement program. Slide, please. All right, so finally we got to the best slide. This is the good news. Okay, so given the reduction in the general fund account in combination with the significant growth in revenue, once again, this is due to strong consumption and a strong growth in the economy. These leave the city of Topeka with almost $1.7 million in unallocated funds. So we anticipate to bring this back to you as a recommendation, as an action for you to approve in April after we are done with the audit trial balance. But these are 3 significant programs that I would like you guys to consider. One, it's a debt avoidance or significant savings to fund the FIRM program, which is the Facility, Infrastructure, Repair, and Maintenance program. So these will be in the tune of $1.1 million. 2, $250,000 investment in the creation of a land bank within the city of Topeka, as well as another $250,000 investment into our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. With that investment, we will be able to reach our goal of have $1 million in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So overall, these are great news. These are great numbers. And I do hope that these 3 proposed recommendations do follow in line with the vision that you have for the city of Topeka. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie. Are there any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
City Manager?
I just want to expand on this a little bit. So right now, the recommendations that we have before you Those will not come to a vote until April because we won't have final numbers for 2022 until that point in time. The $250,000 that's slated right now, recommended for the land bank program, does have an and/or tag to it. So if the governing body were to decide not to do a land bank program, those monies would then roll to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund as it's recommended right now.
Thank you. Councilman Duncan.
I'm going to add to that because staff shouldn't have to do all the heavy lifting on that request. At the end of last year, I started meeting with staff to talk about how we can get our housing trust fund operational, as it were, and with that $1 million number. Part of that involves a plan, has been brought here once before, but maybe a little more well-conceived plan for a land bank. In the next month or so, Bill Finder up and left us. He was not the only person, but you have to do a little, whoops, we got to readjust a little bit. So staff and I are going to meet. So I guess part of it is me also asking you to take at least a temporary leap of faith and trust that I will be bringing something to you in the next month or so by that April deadline. And then if you think it's the worst plan ever, you can take that money back and do with it what you will. And if you think it sounds reasonable, we've at least put those dollars aside to be able to actually activate that plan and move forward. So like I said, staff shouldn't have to be the only one asking for that because I've sort of been pushing for that myself. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councilwoman Hiller.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Freddie, for this report. It's simple, it's clear. Appreciate that, and I appreciate the transfers that are underway. I feel obligated since these the proposed new items are a little. I was surprised to see them come through. Just to throw out for consideration that I am somebody who absolutely is 150% focused toward redevelopment of our neighborhoods in our city, but I am also someone who's spoken out about the land bank ideas because we haven't had anything yet that really demonstrated why we needed one and how we would use it and how it would be managed. And I appreciate that Spencer has chosen to take that on. I really do, but I think I'll just throw those precautions out because they've often failed or they've been very expensive and the cities have taken on properties that then they couldn't sell any better than the other people could have, just mowing them on purpose. And so I really think it's going to take some time to come up with, sometimes when you've got as soft a real estate market as ours, you can get land that you need. And we already have the capability to own and transfer land. So I'll just need to be convinced that it's timely and that it would add value for us.
Yes,
and on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, we've got lots of new people who are eager to see things going, and I appreciate that too, but we had put out a challenge that we didn't really need one if it was just going to be funded with city money. And I think the last city dollars that went into that fund went in, and it was Councilwoman Ortiz's motion, I believe, with a caveat that we wouldn't put any more in until private money was raised. And so, again, we've had a little conversation. I think that Spencer's working on it, but if we want to do affordable housing, we could just do it if that's the purpose, but I'm not sure about it needing to go through the trust fund. So if I can just kind of put those conversations out for consideration. Again, thank you, Freddie, and welcome. And I know you worked hard on this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Dobler.
Thank you, Mayor. I too will be interested in the plan and many more details on both the land bank and the housing trust fund. Also, applaud the proposed creation of the design fee fund. Makes no sense to temp note money at a high rate of interest when we have this kind of money available. The one caution, I guess, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but we saw the demise of the previous design fee fund many years ago simply by projects that weren't built. So ultimately they weren't bonded and you couldn't pay back the fund. So I'll be interested to see what kind of mechanisms you're going to put in place to make sure that we're only funding projects that are going to be ultimately built and bonded. So thank you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Further questions or comment on the presentation? Okay. Thank you, Freddie. I appreciate that. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 5, the consent agenda, if the clerk will read.
A is a resolution introduced by Councilmember Christina Valdivia Acula approving a special event known as the Nodo in Bloom. B is approval of a utilities professional service engineering contract amendment between the City of Topeka and Bartlett and West Incorporated in the amount of $10,000 for a total contract amount not to exceed $183,000 for the purpose of providing program management through year 2023 for the annual water replacement program. C are minutes of the regular meeting of February 14, 2023, and there are no applications.
Okay, we've heard the consent agenda. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala, second by Councilman Kell. If you'll call the vote, please.
Councilmembers Kell,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Abstain.
Duncan,
Yes.
Hofer,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmembers Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Acla,
Yes.
Ortiz,
Yes.
and Emerson.
Yes.
We have 9 yes with 1 abstention. The motion carries.
Motion's been carried. We'll move to agenda item 6, if Brenda will read.
A is a resolution introduced by City Manager Stephen Wade making certain findings pursuant to the Kansas Rural Housing Incentive District Act with regard to an application submitted by Mission Ridge LLC to establish a rural housing incentive district and requesting that the Kansas Secretary of Commerce review the resolution and advise the governing body.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is our first RHID project. Tonight, what we ask is for your approval to forward this to the Department of Commerce. The way this works is the applicant files with the city forwards then to Department of Commerce for review. Whatever comments the Commerce Department makes will then come back to us. The governing body will receive a completed application at a later point in time for your consideration. All we're asking tonight is to be able to forward it to the Department of Commerce.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the City Manager? Councilwoman Hiller.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one. This is our first time through this. And so I guess the question would be, we know that what's built into this is a but-for, that if it weren't for whatever incentive gets set up, the project wouldn't happen. Could you briefly describe? I would just hate for us to send something if we didn't know for sure it was going to be viable after it came back. Could you explain what the but-for would be?
Sure. In this particular case, that consideration comes when it comes back from the Commerce Department with the full application. So those considerations will be made by a committee and then presented to you with full explanation.
I guess, and this is really just a question for the first time, why would we even send it if we didn't think there was something there, I guess?
That's how this process works. I mean, we've looked at it. We believe it meets the specifications as this governing body has outlined.
Okay.
But as far as a full explanation of the application, that comes at a later point in time. This is simply a very preliminary application for consideration.
But staff is convinced that there is a gap there that would make it eligible.
As we've looked at it right now, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Further questions? Okay. Hearing none, seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion. Motion to approve by Councilman Emerson.
Sorry.
Second by Councilman Dobler. You call the vote, please.
Councilmembers Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
Hofer,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmembers Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Acla,
Yes.
Ortiz,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
and Kell.
Yes.
We have 10 yes, motion carries.
Okay, motion's been carried. We'll move to action item 6B. If the clerk will read.
B is approval of amendment number 1 to the City of Topeka contract number 49771 with the Fraternal Order of Police concerning residency and wages for 2023 and 2024.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was sent to governing body members earlier today. This follows conversations in the past couple of weeks This was a wage reopener for the Fraternal Order of Police. We did come to an agreement that is outlined in this memorandum. As you compare it to how the original contract was written, this analysis was done with the advice of our CFO. You'll note the difference of a little over a 3% over the original 2023 proposal, and then about 3.25% over the original 2024 proposal, both of which are over $800,000 a year. This does put the FOP in a competitive situation as compared to the Shawnee County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from City Manager? Councilman Valdivia Acala.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, can you tell me, is this the first, well, let me back up. Just so that community will know that's watching, when was this contract negotiated? Wasn't it like a year and a half, year ago, something of that nature?
September of 21, if I recall correctly.
Okay, and it was a 3-year contract?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and is this the first time a contract's been opened for something of this nature, and instead of waiting until the contract cycles out?
I
till the
don't know.
next
I don't know
renegotiation?
that I have the history to accurately respond to that. It's the first time that I'm aware of, but I don't know in overall history.
And just to remind me too, where are we with trying to get, some of our lower paid workers within the city of Topeka that I don't know if they're still at $12 or $13 an hour. Where are we with movement towards trying to get them up to a living wage as based on what our own housing study has said should be a little bit under $17 an hour?
Councilwoman, I believe that we have now pretty much gone through a cycle with all of our unions for the city, and we've made progress on all of those. We're certainly not at the $17 an hour mark.
Do you have any idea how many workers may be outside of that range?
Jackie? I don't, but we'll have to get back to you.
Yeah, if you could get me that, I'd appreciate it. I just wanted to say, it's troublesome to me that a contract is reopened before renegotiation occurs. I don't know if this is something that will be a start, a trend that we may be setting precedent for. I have real concerns about other workers that have not reached even to the level of a living wage within the city. And because of that and other things, I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Councilman Dobler.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to point out, we had a presentation a few minutes ago that showed us plus or minus $6 million on the plus side based on the 2022 budget. If my K-State math is correct, maybe it's KU math for Councilman Emerson. This equates to about 13% of that surplus. So it's all tied together. We have a surplus because inflation's high. Everything costs more. Our sales tax revenues are up. Obviously, we've seen a cycle of valuation of real property that is giving us more money. It also means that salaries that were negotiated a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, are well below where they should be based on inflation we've seen over that period of time. So I will be heartily in support of this. Thank you.
Councilman Duncan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also in support for several reasons. First of all, I was the one who brought forward the residency change that's part of this contract and needs to be made. According to several of our departments, that's already paying off to some degree, and hopefully that stays that way. So I will support it because of that provision. I do think it's important to note that in our at least the last 2 years, every union contract that we've negotiated that I've been a part of, we've approved, have had increases at the baseline. Most of them based off of wage studies. We know we're not all quite there, but they have been based off of the market, and we've done a pretty good job, I think, of getting folks closer, if not there all the way. And a reminder that in this last year's budget, we did increase wages across the board for a lot of departments that were non-union. So obviously we can always do better, and we need to keep striving towards that. But this is part of that process because we've got to be competitive. And particularly when it comes to things like our police department, where we need good people on the ground doing that work, this is just part of what it takes to make sure we get qualified, good people on the streets of Topeka that we can depend on. So I will be supporting this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Further comment? Councilwoman Hiller.
Just to clarify, we've talked about this before, and I think I've got this right. When it goes up 822,000 in 2023, the 887 means that in 2024 means that it'll actually be about 1.7 million from today in 2024, so that together for these 2 years, this is about $2.5 million. And so for people that might be doing that math and be nervous about it, if I've got it right, what Councilman Dobler is reflecting or referring to is the estimated sales tax that we don't have in yet. And we're expecting that that will cover that entire amount. Is that right?
Excuse me, the estimated sales tax collection for December would likely cover that full amount? Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
That was the plan, right? Or that's where we looked at the balancing numbers anyway.
That's not what I shared with the governing body, but
Okay.
it does work.
Okay. Because it's otherwise unobligated right now.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Further comments? Councilwoman Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've kind of struggled with this. I have spoke to the last 2 fire chiefs about compression and bringing our fire department up where they need to be. And what we're doing is, I feel like the contract is binding on both ends. And now we're starting to say, well, this and well, that and well, this and well, that. And I don't really like that. I don't really like that. So what I will be looking for staff to do is, if this passes, is to go to each and every other department. Because I don't feel like one department is better than the other. We all have a part to play. We're a body. We all have a part to play. And we're all important to each other. And so just like the low guy on the totem pole, we need him to answer the phones or whatever he does. And so I will be looking for us to open that up. Spencer was correct. He did do the residential. He opened that up. Even at the request of his mother not to do it, he did it. Even at my request to listen to his mother, he still did it. Mother knows best, and he hasn't learned that yet. I support public health and safety. And one of the things I also support is, right now it's a tough time. It's a tough time for people that want to be on the force. This is not going to fix our problem. So I'm really struggling with this. But I look forward, if we're going to start opening contracts, then let's be fair to all the kids and not just some of them. And I'm sure that they will come forward as well, because none of the past 2 firefighters wanted to talk about compression. Pay, because it's a big sum that we owe them. I would disagree on the residency issue. It's only part of our problem. It doesn't solve all of it. And I know there's not a one size fits all, but I'm just really struggling with that, because my grandfather always told me, your word is as good as a binding contract. And that was their word when they gave us, when we went forward and we signed that contract and we agreed with that contract. And now it's like, oh, we got to open it because of this. And now because it's open, let's just figure this out. And I feel like there's going to be more stepping forward. And I hope that we listen and take heed to that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Kell.
I believe this is a good thing because it's getting us into competitive area with our surrounding areas, and it allows for us to bring in new people, because it's not necessarily about bringing in new people to me, it's also about retaining the ones we have. And if we're not having a full force, we're having to have people work overtime, burnout happens, long hours happen, and people decide, oh, I think I want a different career field altogether. Law enforcement is a rough area to work in. I've worked in the prison system, I've worked in the halfway house system. It's just the subconscious stress alone in there can ravage a person with burnout. So being able to financially look at this and say, this will help bring in new officers, which will also then help retain our current officers also, for them not looking for a better pay elsewhere or just looking for a better situation elsewhere because of low staff power. To me, it's a no-brainer that we do this, but we also do look at the other departments. And I've said all along that, there's an aspect of the unions have some say in where the pay goes, where it starts, but I think we might be able to run an ordinance past that says all city employees are going to be paid, or find out some way to make it where at least the bottom levels get a little bit more bump, and it's not necessarily the unions that say where the money can necessarily go to get people to higher levels. And I know there's been talk before also about possibly removing steps. I think steps are the one thing that can motivate someone where they might be stuck and aren't able to promote due to being at a certain level where there's a lot of competition for promotion. So I believe another thing that necessarily wasn't talked about was the steps, but we definitely need to keep those in place also to be able to compete long term, just not today with hiring people, but also retaining people. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Further comment? Councilman Kell.
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Move to approve by Councilman Kell, second by Councilman Dobler. If you call the vote, please.
Councilmembers Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
Hofer,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmembers Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Acala,
No.
Ortiz,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
and Nager.
Yes.
We have 9 yes, Councilmembers Valdivia Acala voting no. The motion carries.
Okay. Motion's been carried. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate the dialogue. We'll move on to now public comment, and if I check with Brenda, I don't think we have anyone signed up.
Correct.
Where's Joe?
He left with the,
Okay, just checking. Okay, we'll move on now to announcements. Madam Clerk.
There is no meeting next week, so we have no agenda to cover.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier today, you and I had the privilege of accepting an award on behalf of Topeka Rescue Mission for our staff's effort in December when it came to very frigid temperatures approaching 45 below zero right before Christmas. Very proud of our team, very proud of the work that they put into providing warming centers for those who needed it. It was a fantastic partnership with Topeka Rescue Mission. And so on behalf of the employees of the city of Topeka, we greatly appreciate it.
If I may, just to follow up on that, I think the meeting this afternoon really went into a lot of detail about how Topeka, as I've said, is a giving community, a caring community, and full of volunteers. They talked about how when they first started, even on the first day of this warming center, when they showed up in that room, the room was filled with volunteers. And firefighters and the police department was there in numbers. they had their specific jobs and duties, but there are a lot of civilians in there and a lot of people from nonprofits who wanted to be first in line to help. And I think it says something about a community who struggles sometimes with recognizing maybe what seems to be the obvious thing of how do you take care of the unsheltered. But when it becomes a life endangering situation like the cold weather brought to us, I think that discussion is done. I think what you have to do is take action. And that's what all of these partners did with the city. They took action. And I think, as I was saying earlier, I think, city manager, if you can confirm, they estimate, at least 38 lives they saved because of the actions that were taken. I mean, that's something to be proud of. That's something that you can look at and say that your government is not doing it alone, but is doing it effectively as possible with the partners they have in this community. So my congratulations to every one of those partners who took part in this. And I know when the weather came in, I was on the phone with city manager and giving him credit. I told him, I know you're already in the loop on this and got things moving. I just needed to know where I could step in and help out. And he had things well under control. Amanda Broyles with the Topeka Rescue Mission, same way. I know they both spent time down there serving the community that they brought in. You hear stories that they were telling about how as they were out trying to bring people in, they would come upon some of these tents. And in one case, if I'm correct in remembering, they were saying they could hear a faint voice coming from one of those tents. I need help. I need help. And people helped them. That's just so reaffirming about what our community does for each other. So it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. I am so proud to be a part of this governing body that serves the community in this way. So thank you again, City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I know on your desk to your left, you have a couple of coins that the mayor has that I know that you're planning to share that with Barry and Lamanda.
Yeah, I wish Barry wouldn't have jetted out as quickly as he did, and Lamanda wasn't here tonight. We'll get them to him. Okay. Moving on with announcements. Councilman Emerson. What? Councilman Kell.
As I shared last week, we had a lot of regionals and league tournaments starting for the high school sports. Today, we had a regional for bowling, and we had some area high schools in it. And both the Seaman boys and girls teams took first in the regionals. They'll be going to state. The Topeka West girls took runner-up and will be going to state. And 2 Topeka West boys qualified as individuals after the team didn't qualify for state, but we had 2 boys qualify there. So we're sending, as of right now, 20 area kids to the state tournament in Wichita next week.
Thank you. Councilwoman Nager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In this last bit of Black History Month, I wanted to put a highlight on 2 different things happening this week up until the end of the month. They were both featured in the Capital Journal. So if you are already a subscriber, you probably already know about this. But for those who are not, it's good to know that right now we are celebrating Black Restaurant and Food Truck Week in Topeka. Warehouse Management is presenting a whole lineup of trucks all the way across the community. Some of the Black-owned businesses and have included Smoking H's Barbecue and JLG's Mexi Q, which served dishes yesterday and today. But tomorrow you can see Soulfire Food Company and Shopper's Kitchen. On Thursday, you can see Hot Dog and Smoothie Shack. And on Friday, you can hang out with Smoky Dunks. On Friday, you can also get some Flavor Wagon. Oh my goodness. I'm really, really sorry, Millicent, because I'm not sure that I'm going to go ahead and say this correctly, but Kono Nia Touch African cuisine is going to be out on Saturday, as is Nanny's Soul Food. You can find more of this information online because, again, all across the city. So there should be a food truck not too far away from you. Something else that you can go ahead and check out is at Arts Connect's Noto office. There is a gallery that's empowering Black artists. And you can actually go ahead, see the art that our Black brothers and sisters are creating in this community, and you can also take home some of that art. And something that's really important about all of this is that this is a great time to go ahead and get to celebrate and get to know some of these businesses and some of these artists, but do not stop supporting them just because February ends. These people are creating wonderful things and opportunities in our community all the time. And so take this as an opportunity to learn more and to continue to invest in these community members. Something also to think about past February is filing taxes. April 15th is coming up, and we have different opportunities in the community that if you are of low to moderate income as an individual or as a family, there is assistance that's available. And I've made a sign again. If you go to shawnee.kstate.edu/family-finance or call the number 785-207-9427, you can get information about filing your taxes before tax day comes up. You can do so in person at different locations, or if you need to go ahead and mail things in, you need to get that done by April 1st. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Dobler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It just occurred to me, I used to go home after this meeting and watch the nightly news. Now I get my sports update, thanks to Councilman Kells. Probably gains me like 5-6 minutes of sleep, so thank you for that. Did want to say, the mayor and I had the pleasure last week, actually, of attending the ribbon cutting for the University of Kansas St. Francis new facility on Wanamaker. Fantastic combination of family practice and many other specialties there. I want to say thanks to the University of Kansas as well as Ardent, which is a partner. We're so fortunate to have two strong regional hospitals in this town that both provide excellent medical care. So appreciate that and encourage folks that don't have a doctor lined up to and live in the west part of town to take a look at the new facility on Wanamaker, close to 29th. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Duncan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one announcement. This Thursday, 4:30 to 6 o'clock, I will be at Fairlawn Plaza for office hours. Please swing on by. I will see you then. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Hofer.
Nothing tonight.
Councilwoman Hiller.
Thank you, Mayor. Just tag on to Councilwoman Nager's announcement for Black Restaurant and Food Truck Week. I encourage everybody to absolutely look online and find out not only where somebody is, but what hours they're there. And get there early, because I went for hook and queue yesterday, an hour before they were supposed to be done, and they were already sold out, which happens with food trucks. So get on out there and shop early and shop often. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala.
Thank you, Mayor. Oakland NIA had their meeting last night and wanted to give a big shout out of thanks to Fire Chief Randy for coming out and having a huge chunk of time that he gave to folks that had a number of questions. And as we talked about issues with recruitment, et cetera. So it was really nice having him out there at the NIA. Also, I know this is a little bit late in coming, but I think that Judy Wilson's leaving Safe Streets was very saddening news to me. I think that she will be deeply missed within the community. I wanted to say thank you to Director Ernestor for letting me know that they are going to be working hard to get council people with NIAs kind of up to date on what's happening, here shortly with Safe Streets, with Neighborhood Watch, things of that nature, which Judy was always front and center on. As an elder, it was amazing. I mean, she was an elder. She is an elder, I think, in her early 80s and still working for Safe Streets for so many years, and she will be greatly missed by many, including this person. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Ortiz. Councilwoman Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Saturday, I attended a banquet for Superintendent and First Lady Jeanette Mitchell. They are with, on their 20th annual Founders Day. They are with Open Arms Outreach Ministries in Topeka. They're located in the Old Belvoir School at 2401 Southeast 11th Street. 20 years that they've been working in that area, much needed, giving COVID shots, clothes, food, and they are starting a garden and some other things that they want to get started. So I can't believe 20 years has already gone by, but I wanted to congratulate them and all their accomplishments, and they said they're not done yet. I know that we have a lot of new people on staff, and I want to welcome them. If I haven't, I've kind of bumped into some people, and I will set up some times to meet with them, but I don't need to set up a time to get them a smoke detector application. We want to make sure that everybody on our City of Topeka team is safe. So I will give that charge to the city manager to make sure that we get our new people one of those, and so we can get some smoke detectors, some working smoke detectors. Well, not that you have enough on your plate, I'll just put something else on it, up and going. I also want to thank Chase Middle School. They had a career day today. I spent 4 hours over there today with these young people. They have asked to start up a petition. They would like to have a Rising Canes that's in Lawrence. I'd like to have one of those in East Topeka. So we're going to start a petition and we're going to mail it to the people and see where it goes. That's one of the things that they mentioned, and I thought it was awesome because I'm tired of driving to Lawrence to get my Raising Cane fix. So another thing that they said, they'd like to see a Worlds of Fun or some type of amusement park in Topeka, and I'm just passing along that. Another thing that was brought up was the homeless. The kids, they were glad to hear that we're working on the homeless and in that area. Chase Middle School is in Oakland, and so I'm sure they encounter those people, and it was nice to see that. And they'd also like to see more people properly taking care of their pets. And I thought that was totally awesome. So it was a great time and a great way to rejuvenate with those young people to hear what's on their hearts. I talked about graffiti and spraying up my district and in Oakland, and we talked about that and the damages that they do. A couple of guys put their head down. I even had one young man come and apologize to me. So sometimes it's all it takes is just to rub elbows with them. It does make you feel younger, even though that was 4 hours. That was really, really long to me. So I'll be asking our legal staff to get that petition, and they're going to go around and they're going to ask people to sign it, and we'll see where it goes with that. But just proud to be a part of that, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. I have one thing I'd like to bring up, but I'm going to ask Director De La Rosa to step to the podium, if you would. It's a little in advance, but I think this activity that he has been helping organize is extremely important. And the sooner we get the word out, the sooner we can generate enthusiasm and participation in this. I'll give a little preface. I talked a little bit about the character of the people that are in the city of Topeka and with these nonprofit organizations and our staff as well. And I think we go back to character in a lot of things that we do. It gives meaning to our purpose, and it makes it clear to the citizens that we're not just going through the motions. There was an opportunity that came to my office, and very quickly, visiting with some local pastors, I saw a need to put some attention to this, and fortunately, Mr. De La Rosa was in his office, so I went and grabbed him really quickly and brought him into the conversation, and we made a few suggestions, and Director De La Rosa has been working with them, and if you would give us an idea, Ernesto, of what's planned and anticipation of that March 6th date, correct?
Certainly. Good evening, City Council. Happy to be here. Yeah, just a little bit of context on the event. After an unfortunate event with the Parkland High School boys basketball team last December, the group of pastors and the mayor asked for a recognition event to be put together to recognize the team really for taking the high road during that incident. And so my office has been helping the group of pastors put together an event taking place on March 6th, 6 o'clock in the Topeka Performing Arts Center. Again, to recognize the team and give a little bit of praise for their courageous leadership and really behavior during that incident. So we'll be getting more information to you, but we certainly invite the public and certainly city staff and council members to join us that evening.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have. If there is no further business to come before this body, what do we got? Excuse me?
Mr. Mayor?
No, we don't. No. No executive session. So as I was saying, no further
Mr. Mayor?
business.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilwoman Ortiz.
I think that's great what you're doing with Highland Park, but I would also encourage you to look at the first game of Topeka High and what they had to endure out of town. It was very similar. So I don't want us to get caught up. If we're going to do for one, let's do for both.
We're not getting caught up in that, Councilwoman.
Well, I will.
Director De La Rosa is new to town. It is the Topeka High Trojans that we are recognizing for their incident in Valley Center.
I thought you said Highland Park,
I did not.
or he said Highland Park.
He did.
Okay, my mistake. Because, okay, on the flip side of that, there's a similar incident that happened with Highland Park as well. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. As I was saying again, no further business to come before this body. This meeting is adjourned.